the African News broadcast from Canada. My name is Angela. As on the top stories, intense fighting in Ethiopia's Amhara region continues. Ethiopians suffer under Tigray aid shortages. Sudan activists plan big Saturday protest. These and more stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned. You are welcome back from the break to a very first story in Ethiopia. Intense fighting is reported to be continuing around the cities of Desse and Kombolcha in Amhara state between the Tigrayan forces and the Ethiopian army with its allies. Desse is home of tens of thousands of internally displaced people who fled their homes as the war expanded to Tigray's southern neighbor. Kombolcha, on the other hand, is an industrial hub, home to the area's main airport. Meanwhile, airstrikes have once again been reported in the Tigrayan capital, Mekelle. The government communications office said the targets were part of the Mesfin engineering and industrial plant that was also hit by the airstrike last week. The forces have not responded to the claim about the targets, but senior figure Getachew Reader tweeted confirming the air raid in the city, adding that the air defense intel unit. The forces have not responded to the claim about the target, but senior figure Getachew Reader tweeted confirming the air raids in the city, adding that the air defense unit was engaging enemy jets. Still in Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Air Force launched a series of attacks against the forces of the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF) over the weekend. Two bombardments struck Mekelle, the capital of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, killing 3 children and wounding several people, according to the United Nations. The increased use of air power could be a sign that the federal government is worried about the Tigray forces' advance in the neighboring region of Amhara, according to William Davison, an Addis Ababa-based senior analyst to the International Crisis Group, ICG. Davison told DW that the air raids must be seen in context of the heavy way made on the ground by the Tigray forces, which seem to be making steady advances through to Afar and the eastern Amhara, and indeed are threatening to take control of the cities of Desse and Kombolcha. Instead, suffering has increased among the civilian population. Over 5 million Ethiopians are now dependent on the humanitarian aid for survival, and some 2 million have been displaced. The UN said last week that the number of young children hospitalized due to severe malnutrition between February and August was doubled the number recorded during this same period last year. During the weekend in October 13th, only 52,000 people in Tigray received food assistance, according to a report by the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. That figure represents just 1% of the 5.2 million in need of help. We move to Sudan now. On the United Nations Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa has told the Security Council that Monday's military takeover was a tragic event for Sudan. The Prophet Onanga Ayanga said the restoration of constitutional order in Sudan was critically urgent. He said the coup it highlighted the fragility of some African government. Jibril Ibrahim, Sudan's Minister of Defense until Monday's coup, said the new military arrangement was a new reality that the nation must work in order to succeed. It is a reality now of the military rule. If we have the commitment, then I think we will find a way to talk to each other and find a way to move forward, he told the BBC. And at the end, of course, there should be a civilian government. They have to appoint a civilian prime minister, and that prime minister will appoint his government, he continues stating it. The African Union has suspended Sudan amid growing pressure for Sudanese military authorities to reinstate the civilian government. Still in Sudan, the World Bank has suspended its aid to Sudan after the military there staged a coup against the civilian government. Political leaders were arrested on Monday, sparking nationwide protest and international condemnation. The African Union (AU) has also suspended Sudan from the bloc over the unconstitutional seizure of power. The U.S. has frozen $700 million, that is 508 million euro in aid. Sudan's civilian and military leaders had been in a fragile power-sharing agreement for the past 2 years. The sudden cut to aid is likely to have dire consequences for Sudan's battered economy at a time when it was just starting to get back on its feet. The World Bank and the AU move put further pressure on the coup's leader, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, to reinstate the civilian government. General Burhan was in charge of the power-sharing agreement and has said the coup was needed to avoid civil war. He has insisted that Sudan was still moving towards democracy and elections in 2023, but his reasoning and the sudden takeover has been widely rejected. Our final story, and protests are continuing in Sudan against Monday's military coup. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people have continued to join demonstrations both in the capital and in other cities, says the BBC Mohammed Osman in Khartoum. Activists have called on for huge protests on Saturday and they say they will continue to fight for democracy despite the danger they face from the security forces, our reporter told the BBC Newsday program. Shops, banks and other businesses are closed as part of a protest movement demanding a return to civilian rule. Officials are also staying away from work. 7 protesters have been killed since the coup, a health ministry official told the AFP news agency. There is mounting international pressure on the country's military leaders to relinquish power. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke to his Sudanese counterpart to condemn the military takeover and the arrest of civilian leaders. This is where I draw the curtains on African News. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Sandra Asante. Do have a blissful day.